Ibrahim Lodi, eldest son of Sikandar Lodi, and the last Sultan of Delhi, was arrogant and brutal ruler. He openly insulted and humiliated his nobles in court. His own uncle Alauddin revolted. Daulad Khan Lodi, the governor of the Punjab, greatly disappointed by the arrogance and insult of Ibrahim. He invited Babur to invade India. Babur marched against Delhi, defeated and killed Ibrahim Lodi, in the first battle of Panipat. With him, the Sultanate period ended, and Mughal Empire has started. Babur founded the Mughal Empire. He was a Central Asian ruler, who claimed lineage from Timur on his father's side, and from Chagatai, the second son of Mongol Emperor, Genghis Khan. His descendants, the Mughal emperors, built a long-lasting empire, that covered much of the subcontinent until 1868, and that continues to shape the culture of India to this day. Zahiruddin Muhammad, nicknamed Babur, was born into the Timurid royal family, in Andijan, now in Uzbekistan. In 1494, Umar Sheikh Mirza, father of Babur, died suddenly, and 11-year-old Babur ascended his father's throne. His seat was anything but secure, however, with numerous uncles and cousins plotting to replace him, and a group of nobles who wanted his younger brother, Jahangir, to be the ruler. His uncle were relentless in their attempts to remove him from his position. Babur was able to secure his throne, mainly because of help from his maternal grandmother Daulat Begum. The young Babur set out to expand his holdings. By 1497, he had conquered the famous Silk Road, oasis city Samarkand. His uncles and other nobles rose in rebellion back in Andijan. When Babur turned to defend his base, he once again lost control of Samarkand. The young Babur had regained both cities by 1501, but the Uzbek ruler, Shaibani Khan, challenged him over Samarkand, and dealt Babur's forces a crushing defeat. This marked the end of Babur's rule in Uzbekistan. The homeless prince wandered Central Asia, trying to attract followers, to help him retake his father's throne. For 3 years, Babur concentrated on building a strong army, recruiting widely amongst the Tajiks of Badakhshan in particular. Finally, he and his small army turned to the southeast, marching over the snow-bound Hindu Kush mountains into Afghanistan. Babur besieged and conquered Kabul, establishing a base for his new kingdom. He allied himself with the rulers of Herat and Persia, and tried to take back Fergana. Once more, the Uzbeks utterly defeated the Mughal army, driving them back to Afghanistan. Babur began to look south once more. Babur wanted to escape from the Uzbeks, and he chose India as a refuge, instead of Badakhshan, which was to the north of Kabul. After his loss of Samarkand, Babur gave full attention to the conquest of North India, launching a campaign. He reached Chenab River in 1519. Until 1524, his aim was to only expand his rule to Punjab, mainly to fulfill the legacy of his ancestor, Timur, since it used to be part of his empire. At that time, parts of North India were under the rule of Ibrahim Lodi, of the Lodi dynasty, but the empire was crumbling, and there were many defectors. He received invitations from Daulad Khan Lodi, governor of Punjab, and Alauddin, uncle of Ibrahim Lodi. He sent an ambassador to Ibrahim Lodi, claiming himself the rightful heir to the throne, but the ambassador was holed up at Lahore, and released months later. Babur started for Lahore, but found that Daulad Khan Lodi had been driven out by forces sent by Ibrahim Lodi. When Babur arrived at Lahore, the Lodi army marched out, and his army was defeated. In response, Babur burned Lahore for 2 days. Babur then marched to Dibalpur, placing Alam Khan, another rebel uncle of Lodi, as governor. Alam Khan was quickly overthrown, and fled to Kabul. In November 1525, Babur got news at Peshawar that Daulad Khan Lodi had switched sides, and he drove out Alauddin. Babur then marched on to Lahore, to attack Daulad Khan Lodi. Daulad Khan Lodi surrendered and was pardoned. Babur marched on to Delhi via Srihand. He reached Panipat, and there met Ibrahim Lodhi's numerically superior army, of about 1 lakh soldiers and 100 elephants. In the battle, that began on the following day, Babur encircled Ibrahim Lodhi's army, and forcing it to face artillery fire directly, as well as frightening its war elephants. Ibrahim Lodhi died during the battle, thus ending the Lodhi dynasty. After the battle, Babur occupied Delhi and Agra, took the throne of Lodhi, and laid the foundation for the eventual rise of Mughal rule in India. Victory at Panipat provided Babur a firm ground to consolidate his conquests, but at the same time he was faced with new problems. His nobles and commanders were eager to return to Central Asia, because they did not like the climate of India. They also felt alienated culturally. The Rajputs were rallying around, under the leadership of Rana Sanga, the king of Mewar, and wanted to expel the Mughal forces. The Afghans, though defeated at Panipat, were still a formidable force in eastern parts of UP, Bihar, and Bengal. They were regrouping to reclaim the lost powers. Babur, thus convinced his companions and nobles to stay back, and help in consolidating the conquered territories. Even as he succeeded in this difficult task, he found himself inviting the hostilities of Rana Sanga of Mewar. The Rana had expected Babur to return to Kabul, and his decision to remain in India was a big jolt to Rana Sanga's territorial ambitions. Thus battle between the two became inevitable. Battle of Kanwa was one of the most fiercely contested battles in Indian history, fought between Babur and Rana Sanga of Mewar and his allies. Rana Sanga was defeated, and Babur's position in the Delhi-Agra region was secured. Babur won the battle because of his superior generalship and modern tactics. The battle was one of the first in India that featured cannons and muskets. Battle of Chunderi was fought between Babur and Medini Rai, the Rajput ruler of Malwa. On receiving news that Rana Sanga had made preparations to renew the conflict with him, Babur decided a military defeat on one of his staunchest allies, Medini Rai. Babur faced little difficulty in overcoming Medini Rai. With his defeat, resistance across Rajputana was completely shattered. Medini Rai organized a Jawahar ceremony, during which women and children within the fortress immolated themselves. Babur died in 1530 AD in Agra, while on his way to Kabul. He was buried in Agra, and later his body was taken to Kabul. Babur ruled for 4 years, and was succeeded by his son Humayun, whose reign was temporarily usurped by Suri dynasty.